We're in here. T is against the hand, which you can see from down the line. If we zoom in on that, I'm going to keep the T against the hand to impact, and I'm going to push them even harder together right there if we're zoomed into that. All right, what's going on, everybody? Hope this video finds you well. Got a super cool topic, and I think, truthfully, one of the most important pieces for the average person, or for most of us, truthfully, to work on, which would be the finish and also release patterns. So, release patterns for me are extremely, extremely important, especially coming from my background. I was the player who really struggled with twisting the grip, and I didn't really know what I was supposed to do, or did I ever create a feel of how I would actually keep the club face square, or what square actually was on the finish side of the arc. So when we look at how people learn the best, I think it's really important, number one, to understand where we need to start from. So what is square to start with? And where do we need to get it to in space? So if we technically looked at the finish of the golf swing, the finish of the golf swing would be after the golf ball is left. Now, I don't teach it that way because I don't think there's very many of us that can actually feel or tell exactly what's happening down at impact through the golf ball. Okay? So I like to look at it more on the finish side of the arc, P8, P9, which would be P8, P9, and having a checkpoint that I can refer to for what square is. So if we go in firstly, it's like, let's say this is the player. If you're the player that struggles with hooking it, this is a very good video for you. It might even be a player that struggles with blocking it and hooking it, but it's basically, it comes down to a face-to-path relationship. So when we start with this, one of the things that I think we actually need to comprehend is where swing direction is created and how the face works in conjunction to the swing direction. So if we look at this, I would call the leading edge of the shaft, this is our swing direction. And what I mean by that is if I put this alignment stick here on the top of the grip, and you look at this from face on, if I'm holding this right here, the more I push the handle forward, and if we pan to the back down the line, you can see how this shaft at a 90-degree angle on the top of the grip starts to move right. The more backwards it moves, the more left it moves. Okay, so that would be a swing direction or a club path right there. Then what we have access to is twist in the face along the shaft. We have an opening. We have an opening or a closing rate to the leading edge of the shaft. This right here is the skill set that I think is incredibly important for the majority of us right here. So when we look at the player, who struggles with excessively releasing it, what their wrist conditions are doing and what their forearms are doing is the lead forearm is going into supination. The wrist is typically going into a lot of ulnar deviation, and then the wrist will even start to work into flexion. So if we look at what that looks like, if I go ulnar deviation, flexion, rotation, you can see how much that is twisting the face against the shaft right there. It also becomes harder. You can see how much this golf club moves. If I'm right in here and I'm twisting this, the club's not moving forward with forearm rotation, so there's not as much angular momentum. If I have this angle in and I use forearm rotation, we can see how much that golf club can actually move. And we can also see, if I do this slowly from down the line, we can see how square that club face would be to the shaft. And then we look at it from face on, we can see how there's not a lot of closure rate. There's not a very fast closure rate of what the golf club is doing. Now, I think it's important to be able to train both forearm pieces and come up with a feel, and also know what does it look like in order to keep the club face square to the shaft. So one of my favorite drills that I'm going to show you here to give you a feel, especially for the player that has a neutral grip or even a strong grip, this is a great way to feel how the hands actually work together to keep the club face square. So like if I took a T right here, and I come over here and I put this right there in my brevis, in between my index finger and my thumb, up against my brevis muscle there. Okay, so what you can see right there is there's where the T is. You can see how this is pretty much sitting on top of the grip. So when this is on top of the grip like this, if I twist it to the side, the T goes left, the face closes. If I twist it to the right, the face opens to the shaft, and the T goes to the right for the right-handed player. Now, what I want to see us do to be able to keep a constant pressure on the grip, and I'll actually do this from right here, is I want to see the padding of the right hand up against that T. And as we're going to the finish here, I am actually taking this, and these are pushing against each other as both wrists work into extension and radial deviation. So extension being this would be extension of the wrist, and then radial deviation would be an upward hinge. So if we look at what that does, if I push these together, upward hinge, and I work this around, what you'll notice here from a down the line view is that the club face is looking back at the camera. When we look at the players that struggle with hooking it, we see the face twisted down towards the ground, and you can also see how far left that T would be pointed, and also it would be working away from my right hand or my trail hand. Okay, so keeping this type of a pressure here on the grip, we're also going to show you on hack motion what this actually does as well, and the data that goes into it. But what this does is this makes it easier as the hands are working against each other this way, and it almost feels like we're twisting the grip that direction. Well, that opposing force is going to help keep the face square to the shaft as we work the arms and the shoulders around the spine. So this is a really cool way to create a feel very quickly of how to keep the face square to what the leading edge of the shaft is. So if I started in here, the place that I would begin if I were you is I would hit some half shots, and I would just rehearse what is it like to be able to keep the pressure here, the pressure on the T of my left hand against my right there. So you can see how I'm keeping that pressure against that as I'm working the arms and the shoulders around my spine. I hope you're enjoying today's video, and if you like the way that I explain things and how I break things down, I would love to have you check out my online membership site, Club TS. So inside of this, you're going to have access to unlimited video lessons, group coaching calls that we do weekly, and as well, you're going to have the ability to ask me questions where I can film content for you customized. We also offer practice plans for players of all abilities. So inside of the link here, that's going to give you access to a free 14-day trial that I would love to have you check out. So thank you for watching. Now back to the video. So I'm going to rehearse a couple of these from a feel perspective, just some little half ones, working this in a circle around me and feeling like that pressure stays on there. And really important, I would say, at the finish here, from face on, we can see how the T again is on top of the grip. And as we work to the finish from down the line, you can see how the T right here is still on top of that grip. It's not twisted off to the side. So that would be your relationship to be able to keep the club face square. So if we started off hitting some easy ones here, some short ones, we're just going to work this around the arc. The T is going to stay touching my trail hand, kind of the meaty part of my thumb right there. I'm just going to work this very easily around me. Okay, so like that golf ball right there was dead straight. I can see the T is still on top of the grip, and when I look right here, the club face is looking back at my down the line view camera. It is not twisted towards the ground. So if we did that again one more time, this is a great way to create a feel to work it against over rotating the face. And for some of you that have struggled with hooking it and get the swing direction too far to the right, you might see the ball start right and stay straight now, which then gives us the ability to also start attacking the swing direction. And then we can start zeroing out the swing direction, and we'll do a video to follow this one up on how we can do that. So we're in here, T is against the hand, which you can see from down the line. If we zoom in on that, I'm going to keep the T against the hand to impact, and I'm going to push them even harder together right there if we're zoomed into that. Okay, and we'll do another one here. So same thing, golf ball right there was incredibly straight. Now we'll do one full one. And what we'll do after this is I'll show you some hack motion data on what the forearms are doing now and also what the wrist conditions are doing. And we'll actually start to see, I would guess we would see some symmetry in the forearm rotation, and we would see some symmetry in the finish position, especially down here from P6 to P7 to P8, as the face should remain fairly square throughout our motion. So one more right here. I'm going to go to the destination, create my feel, T against the hand, face back to the camera, arms extended, and they've worked around me. And then we'll let it go. Okay, so same thing, that golf ball was about as straight as I could hit that right there. So this is by far and large one of my favorite feels, one of my favorite drills that I think a lot of people can get benefit from in really helping you play better golf, because this directly affects our face to path relationship that creates curvature on the golf ball and also gives us the ability to check when we've done it right and when we've done it wrong. Okay, it's a direct feel, a visual, and it gives us a place that we're trying to get to in space to the finish. So give that a go. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video here. If you haven't, please click that subscribe button. You can also click the bell right there, and that's going to notify you every time that I release a new YouTube video. Also, if you haven't, check out that last video that I did. It's right here, pinned to the screen. Thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, any comments, please leave those below, and I will make sure I get back to each and every one of you. So thank you again. Appreciate your support. We'll see you next time.